Hello. On this episode, my mom and I went on a hike called Petroglyph Canyon Trail, and it was in the Valley of the Fire in Nevada. The petroglyphs are just so small and so tiny that it led me to think that they were made by tiny people. And it led me to research the little people of the Southwest and all of the interesting legends about the little people from the Native Americans. I also learned about the San Pedro mummy, the little San Pedro mummy, and the little Chiquita mummy. And yeah, that was obviously just the tip of the iceberg, but Montana and Wyoming seem to be the hotspots for little people sightings. So on this episode, I'll show you some photos that I took of the petroglyphs on that hike, show some amazing pictures of the scenery and there were probably hundreds of petroglyphs on this trail and on this hike with such amazing scenery. And as always, I'm always trying to analyze the petroglyphs to get some kind of information about who did them and what they were trying to say. My analysis led me to research an interesting topic. So these petroglyphs are very small, very hard to see in the moment. And I would just kind of see like a hand, a little hand or a little foot, and I would take a picture. And I was going to remember to do this. Remember to put things somewhere in the photo for some scale so that you get an idea of how big the petroglyphs are. And I didn't do that in any of these pictures, but I will tell you they were very tiny. And some of them, like I would see a little hand or a little foot, so I would know that they were on that panel, even though I couldn't really see. So I would just take pictures of the panel to look at later. In Utah, they have the really big life-size petroglyphs, and it makes sense that those were made by large creatures. And it makes sense that these little ones were made by little creatures. And some of the petroglyphs are so old that there's no color left to them. They match the color of the rock. And the only way you can tell they're there is by seeing them etched into the rock. But then there's a lot of natural lines already in the rock. And so, you kind of have to get it at a certain angle, at a certain light, at a certain perspective. And then it would be the newer ones that would be reflecting any kind of trouble that would have been big enough trouble that caused them to have to go hiding underground or go extinct. And it does look like there was a mud flood here. And my favorite petroglyph is this one that shows two different types of creatures, and they're holding hands. And the fact that there's two of each of them makes it, evident that they were drawing two different types of creatures. And I love the way that they're holding hands like they are either uniting. So then I did a little study, a quick study, which seemed to be a tip of the iceberg study about little people and Native Americans and about the little people. And they do speak about the little people as being very mischievous, even ferocious. And they believe that they live in caves, and especially the hot spots for them are in Wyoming and Montana. In the ice caves there in Montana, in the place called the Pryor Mountains, which had a lot of interesting stuff going on. But the ice caves in there, there's a lot of reports of little people living there. And in Wyoming, there's reports of the San Pedro mummy, and he's been x-rayed, and look at how tiny he is. He's really tiny. And also coming from there was the Chiquita mummy. So he was stolen, though. These things always get stolen. I don't know if they wait around for who owns them to die. I don't know, but people steal these things. I don't know if it's a organized thing or if it's just people steal them, but they always get stolen. But there are a lot of photographs, and I think the Chiquita is still somewhere around. One of the names that I've heard of before is the Pugwudgie. The Cherokee, the Shoshone, the Cree, the Iroquois, the Crow, the Aztec, the Maya, and the Lakota, and more, all have names for these dwarves. And I'm interested to learn more about the little people, because usually I've been studying giants, but apparently there's a lot more information about the little people living in North America. Obviously went underground, likely in caves. And that's going to do it for this episode about the Valley of Fire petroglyphs and the possibility of them being made by little people. Don't forget to subscribe and like and hit the bell. And until next time, bye.